Boxing Truth here. Want to do a prediction video for the Victor Ortiz Andre Berto fight this Saturday. It's a fight I'm actually looking forward to the most out of all the fight cards scheduled this weekend. I'm looking forward to it more than James DeGale, Porky Medina, a mandatory challenge. Also, Badu Jack and Lushan Butte. So, even though these guys, Ortiz and Berto, have seen better days, they're not at the top of the welterweight division no longer. They're no longer title holders or are in big significant fights. They're now fighting each other, and it's a long-awaited rematch that was supposed to happen years ago, but was canceled because of a positive drug test from Berto from Vada when they were with Golden Boy, well, promoted by Golden Boy, but were with Heyman at a time when Golden Boy was actually using Vada at the time, when Richard Schaefer was running the company. But the fight's now happening 4 years later, and it still can produce a good action fight considering both guys' styles, both guys' flaws, and the lack of defense in Andre Berto. So now heading into this fight, it's very difficult to determine what each guy has left. Both guys have been knocked out. They've been stopped. Berto has been taking some bad beatings over the years. Ortiz has been in has shown a lot of quit jobs in a lot of his fights. So both guys haven't been very active. Both of them have been part-time fighters. Berto, because of injuries and mostly injuries, and Ortiz, injuries, also an acting career that he's pursued and has had some success in. So heading into this fight, there's really no clear-cut favorite. A lot of people see maybe Berto as a slight favorite. Maybe he has a little more left. That maybe he's stronger mentally. And considering the Ortiz, he hasn't really fought anybody in a while. It's been years. He's only fought 4 times since 2012. But even so, I've been watching some footage, been watching them train. And Victor Ortiz, he has a chip on his shoulder, has a lot to prove. He has read the stories of what the media said about him, that he's a quitter, that he has no heart, that he only cares about his acting career more than boxing, that he's not built for this, that he's mentally weak. And he's read all those stories the media said about him, and he's using it as motivation to fuel his fire. And judging from his last fight, he still has some left physically. He's still an aggressive fighter. He can still make for entertaining fights. He still has some power. He's still a young guy. He's only 29 years old. He hasn't really taken a lot of any big damage in his career. He took some damage in the Maidana fight. He got his jaw broken in the Josecito Lopez fight, but he was winning that fight prior to him retiring on his stool. But the quit jobs, against Floyd Mayweather, against Luis Collazo, against Maidana, it's given fans a picture of him, an identity that he just doesn't have any heart, that he's not built to be a fighter, very mentally weak. And all that could be very true, considering the actions he showed in the ring and some of his losses and the post-fight interviews, the shit that a fighter is not supposed to say. I mean, when you watch Victor Ortiz talk, you can see it that something's mentally wrong there. He's just a weird guy, a weird kid. Says things that fighters shouldn't say. Doesn't act like a fighter sometimes. But despite all that, despite the mental deficiencies, his mental makeup, the flaws in his game, he still has he still could he's still capable physically. What holds him back is his mental makeup. I mean, before he quit against Maidana, he showed a lot of potential. He showed that if he's focused, if he has that demeanor in him, if he's not doubting himself mentally about his abilities, he could really be a dangerous fighter. He almost steamrolled Maidana in 2 rounds. Would have had the best performance had he won that fight. Had he gotten the stoppage in the second round, he would have had the best performance against Maidana than Mayweather in 2 fights against him, and Alexander, who dominated him, but it went 10 rounds, a decision win. Who else? Amir Khan. Amir Khan won life and death with him. So, from all the guys that beat Maidana, potentially Ortiz could have had the best performance. He would have made the biggest statement against him, but it didn't turn out that way. He ended up quitting in the fight, ended up beating a much tougher fight, and it was all downhill from there. He was supposed to be the next Oscar, and I mean, look at him. He was definitely supposed to be the next Oscar. He had it. A weird kid, talks weird, but makes for entertaining fights, celebrity prize fighter, and he's still the A side in this fight. He still has more upside when it comes to this fight, because Berto, even though some people are favoriting Berto to win this time, he was the big favorite the first fight, and he lost because of his development and the handpicked opponents, and not really perhaps underestimating Victor Ortiz as well, and he ended up getting his ass whooped in that fight, dominated. So Victor Ortiz, in my opinion, is the better fighter between the two. Even now, today, he proved it in their first fight. He's the better fighter. He's just a better fighter. He has more arsenal in his punches. He has the better chin between the two. He has the better power, better speed, and even today, now these two versions of Andre Berto and Victor Ortiz, the 2016 versions, Victor Ortiz still has a lot more physically. Mentally, he may be shot, very true. When the going gets tough, he may cave in. But Berto hasn't shown me much of anything in years, physically. I saw him losing to Josesito Lopez before that quick-ass stoppage that he got in their fight. And, the PBC just makes you wonder sometimes. When you're watching a PBC fight, you have to wonder, are you watching a real fight? Are you watching a movie? Are you watching something scripted? A lot of head-scratching decisions and quick stoppages have happened, and in that fight especially. Josesito Lopez is winning the fight. He gets dropped a couple of times, and it gets prematurely stopped. But it is what it is. Berto didn't really look good his last fight against Mayweather. His defense is terrible, wide open target. Ortiz, his last fight, he hasn't really been fighting anybody. He hasn't been active. He had one fight last year against a handpicked opponent, but he showed that he still has some tools physically. He throws his punches well. He still has solid speed, good power. He's still an aggressive fighter. He dominated the guy. He did what he was supposed to do. He knocked the guy down a couple of times. The fight ended up getting stopped. So he still has shown some more. That he still has some more left physically in the ring. So even though I think most are leaning towards Berto, even though he hasn't really shown that he's there physically, that perhaps he is a shot fighter, he's also hasn't been very active. Injuries, beatdowns. I'm going with Victor Ortiz. I think he's going to win this fight again. He proved that he was a better fighter the first time. I still think he's the better fighter now. Of course, you never know when it comes to his mental makeup. He could quit at any moment, especially if the going gets tough. Just who he is. But I still think Victor Ortiz is the more physically gifted fighter, better fighter, comes forward, aggressive, good arsenal of punches, good hooks, right uppercuts, good 1-2. When he when his confidence was there, he really had the potential to be a top fighter, a world, an elite fighter even. But the confidence was beaten out of him by Maidana. He hasn't had it since. He's had it in spurts. But when he's focused and he doesn't doubt himself, he truly is a dangerous fighter. Rolling with Victor Ortiz, going by fuck it, late round stoppage. I think he'll win this fight. And hopefully after this fight for Victor Ortiz, if he wins, I hope he fights Brandon Rios. Get that rubber match made already. Those guys have been talking shit about each other for years. Just make this fight happen. I know there's political divides. Rios is a top ranked fighter. Ortiz is with Heyman. But let's find a way to make this fight happen. Both guys have been spewing hate at each other for years. Both used to be gym stablemates. Rumors that Rios would trash Ortiz in sparring, make him cry. Ortiz begs to differ, saying that he was the man when it came between the two, that he was always the boss in their sparring sessions. Let's make that fight happen next, whatever it takes. I want to see that fight. Put it in the Los Angeles area. Bet you a decent crowd will come in. Two name fighters. After Victor Ortiz takes care of Andre Berto. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.